And class is in session. You're listening to Shit Shooting 101. I'm your host, Joshua Lee. Joining us today, a writer, ghostwriter, teacher, lecturer, researcher, and alarm sounder. Author of the Sub Rosa America series, Chemtrails, HARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Earth, and Geoengineered Transhumanism. Her lessons are electrifying, her message one of magnetic appeal, although charged with the darkness of today's power surge. She is positively a mind for the ages, and such clarity and grace that resonates with any willing ear tuned through the static of simulated reality, here to spark truth like lightning through clouds of deceit, thundering wisdom and boundless echoes. In a world of phony baloney, a lone wolf though never lonely, she is the one and only Elana Freeland. Elana, welcome to the show.
Wow, what a great intro. It's so imaginative.
Well,
I really appreciate that.
I have to give it a bit of umph for one of my favorite guests ever, and I truly appreciate you coming back on. This is going to be great.
Yeah, well, it's good to be back. Good to be back.
So we got a lot to get to, so let's get to it while the getting's good, shall we?
Uh-huh.
When we think of MK Ultra, many of us think of mind control programming through trauma, repetition, deprivation, suggestion, the use of visual and auditory torture, and the splintering of mind and personality by direct CIA intervention. How far has MK Ultra progressed, or any of its spawns, away from the necessity of close interpersonal or near vicinity methods of mind control? That is to ask, can a mind be programmed and controlled remotely, wirelessly, free of implant chip or otherwise from afar?
Very good. Yes, certainly it can. And it's a huge topic now. I heard a doctor, someone who has some letters after their name, say that they didn't know why people were even talking about MK Ultra anymore because that was in the past. That couldn't be further from the truth. What has happened is it has evolved with the technology. The technology back then required basically, I think you left this one out, drugs, definitely drugs, uh, torture, and which they called pain induction, and then hypnosis. And you usually, the victim had to be in a lab or in a hospital or a military base, somewhere where there were lots of shiny instruments of torture, and it was a medical environment. Now it can happen in the comfort of your, or the discomfort of your own home, or in your workplace, believe it or not, or when you're walking down the street. It doesn't really matter because we have, and the reason is simple, we have the satellite. Uh, in fact, I don't know if you know this, Josh, but last month, no, in June, Dr. Robert Duncan, PhD, was killed in his home. He was a targeted individual, and they had been targeting him for years. He's very important to know about this particular step of moving to satellite induction from space, or near Earth orbit anyway, not deep space. And he had worked for the NSA, for the CIA, DIA, et cetera, when he was younger, as one of a team working on a new type of mind control that could be done at a distance. Another, what they call no-touch torture. There are many varieties of no-touch torture now because we have such a handle on electromagnetics and the technology of near Earth orbit or lower Earth orbit has gone so far. And the way it would work is Robert Duncan explained very thoroughly in He's got a few books out, but one of them strangely ended up on the internet for free, which was not his plan at all. And that's the book I have that I like the best. It's called The Matrix Deciphered, and it's actually free on the internet as a PDF. And in that book, he explains very thoroughly the what's called RNM, remote neural monitoring. RNM, the bane of existence of hundreds of thousands of tortured and targeted individuals. I would say, and this is completely off the top of my head, when I think of the United States alone, and I do know it's in Europe, I once was on a train going from London to Glasgow or Edinburgh, and my psychiatrist friend and I were talking about targeting and the mind control that goes on in targeting and how it's done. And I think she had just said something like, do you think it's beyond the United States? When the fellow across the aisle from us on the train, mind you, leaned over and said, I'm undergoing it, and I have been for over 10 years. So the idea of torture, when we think of torture because of our own conditioning, and I'll call it conditioning, I won't call it mind control or programming, uh, has been that we probably immediately think of Nazi Germany and Hitler and the bad things he did, and et cetera, et cetera. And it's not actually far from the truth, because when the MK Ultra was brought over to the United States, and that I tend to think of it as coming here before the war was over, through some of the scientists and politicians who were cutting deals with the United States for the end of the war. Once they had Germany locked into a two-sided war, with between the Allied forces in Europe, and that would include the United States by then, and Russia, the Russian front, when Hitler was marching into Russian front. Once that happened, they knew that Germany would lose the war. So they were all getting lined up to cut a deal with the United States, bringing their expertise with them. And a lot of that expertise was gained through the concentration camps and what was done to the inmates there. That would certainly include MK Ultra. Then they were able to come into the United States and bring their particular zeitgeist of the the National Socialist Party, and the religion of Nazism. A lot of people don't know that it's an actual religion. I mean, you can call it Satanism, it's the same thing, but it has certain bits that are particularly German, Austrian, Northern Europe, etc. So the idea of the RNM was that you could just line them up, and you're doing angles. I don't know how many people realize what HARP is. I pretty much am known for my geoengineering books. In fact, my fourth one is coming out in February 2025. The name of it is The Geoengineered Transhuman, very similar to my last book, which was called Geoengineered Transhumanism. It's a very, very crucial topic of how the environment has been pretty much taken over and can be used to do all sorts of things to us now, due to what is we've breathed in from the chemical trails, and what is being jabbed into us in the name of vaccinations. So we're now in a situation where if the satellites have the optic capacity to hone in on, say, your DNA in particular, then they can uh, pick up from near Earth orbit a what they call your evoked potential. Your evoked potential is not like any other human beings on the Earth, believe it or not. All the billions of people, we're all uniquely individual in our own way, and certainly biologically in some ways. So Robert Duncan tells us how all that is done from space, and so I I tend to think of the evil and the evil behind MK Ultra and the MK Ultra itself as an evolving science of learning how to do it better, you might say, and certainly World War II. If you just look at it as yet another war, it may be similar to World War I, just more of it, or more ruthlessness of it. I think you're missing the point. There was like a Rubicon crossed in these world wars of the 20th century, and that Rubicon was I would call it occultism. This was actually World War II was almost completely an occult war. And when I say occult, a lot of people have that term wrong too. And occult means hidden. And I am a student of an occultist named Rudolf Steiner. He is not the same occult type of occultist as, say, the other another much more famous occultist of the 20th century, who was Aleister Crowley. And Crowley, we know, was the head of OTO, Oriento, I forget what it is, Templaris, something, but basically Satanism, a cult of Satanism. The occult is hidden, whether you are an occultist serving the dark side, or if you're serving the forces of Christ, believe it or not. And when I say the forces of Christ, I'm being very specific. I'm not particularly talking about Christianity per se, or as I call some of it, churchianity. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the fact that the person history calls Jesus Christ, those are two names. And according to Rudolf Steiner, and I'm sure others, I'm just not as familiar with other occultists, Jesus Christ was human, Jesus, very human, very almost perfect as a human being. And then the Christ, and that was what the Jews referred to when they were talking about the Messiah. This is an office that a very high being of the universe uh, it fulfills, perhaps seemingly from time to time, but that would be more of another classification, because occultism is full of classifications that I simply do not know or pay that much attention to. But I do pay attention to knowing that there was a certain moment at which Jesus took on the office of the Christ. And then his life got much, much, much harder. And then, of course, there was the whole drama that we all know from whether it's mythology or one's religion, sense of religion. The idea that we are human, and then there's this divine side, and certainly the people who are serving evil on the occult side of World War II, particularly in the camps, of course, they knew that that good versus evil was one of the major themes going on, and they were very carefully chosen so that they were they were the servants of the evil side, and that's what came into the United States in MK Ultra. Uh, of course, the naive, a lot of the Americans who were in charge of scrubbing the records and getting these people ensconced in our military bases, our hospitals, our universities, all the places of power that had to do with the rising of the so-called Cold War. Uh, they most of them were just naive and didn't really know what they were dealing with. They were used to the kind of Christianity, the religion, where you go to church on Sundays and you call it good. They did not know what Nazism really was, that it was uh, total Satanism of a service to entities which hate humanity and seek to bring it down and turn it into a slave class. So that's kind of how that was set up. And certainly, Robert Duncan never really went into all that, which was fine. He was more interested in the technology by which you could actually take someone over from space. And that is regularly done now. It sometimes entails triangulation with cell towers and cell phones, or the Internet of Things, the Internet of Bodies, etc. All of this has come out of that early, and it was early, when they were using electromagnetics, would have been all the way back to when MK Ultra was doing its usual uh, uh, drugs, pain induction, and hypnosis. They were trying to get it to be electromagnetic. They knew that was the direction they wanted to go in. You remember Jose Delgado, and the charging bull, when he would use his little device in his hand and press a button, and the bull would immediately stop its rampage. That sort of control was what they wanted. And when I say they, I'm talking about the Nazis who were brought over, still card carrying, still believing in that they were the superior race, that they had come to rule, that the Third Reich was still going on. It had just transferred to the United States and Canada and the Americas. So that's very, very important to understand how all the money that has poured into making sure that MK Ultra continues. Of course, it's called other names. It has fragmented into a variety of the sciences that it takes in order to do technologies like this. But it's the same creature, the creature from hell, the creature from the darkest and deepest of the inimical to real human consciousness development and evolution. So, of course, that's my enemy. And I have learned a great deal from Rudolf Steiner as to how to fight this war. I know about a dozen MK Ultra survivors, some of them doing well, some of them not doing anything about it, just kind of sitting back in it and thinking that this is their life, and they aren't even sure about what happened to them as children. There are all kinds of people, and how many are we talking about? Well, I'd say that there's a few 100,000 former MK Ultra survivors just in America. Just as I would say that among targeted individuals, some of whom are MK Ultra, some of whom are simply guinea pigs, chosen for a variety of reasons that you and I are never going to quite figure out in every person. Some of them, yes, are activists. Some of them are political figures. Some of them are academics. Some of them are just homeless people and challenged people in family lineages. But I would say there are about 1.5 million people are being targeted and tortured in their homes, in their places of business, on the street, et cetera. And many of them don't really know what's going on. It's like, you remember recently we had that drama down in Cuba of the Havana syndrome. Remember that?
I do not actually.
All right. So what happened? This is about 5 years ago, maybe 2017, something like that. Um, a At a U.S. embassy, and believe me, the U.S. embassy is it's usually run by the CIA, and then that's usually where a lot of experimentation will happen, because it's American on foreign soil, and so they can do things to people there, and get away with it. Without too much trouble, you might say. So what happened a few years ago was that the some of the workers, some of the ambassadors, even at the embassy in Havana, were struck with a variety of terrible symptoms indicating they had brain damage. And At first it was, oh, foreigners did this, we'll track them down. Then it was, well, they weren't quite sure what it was. Maybe it wasn't that. Maybe it was just, some sort of psychological thing. The usual cover up ensued, to be brief. Eventually, what they did, which was a first for attacking embassy staff, and it's happened before, a variety of experiments, not necessarily this one, is they then turned it into a syndrome that they could send somebody to a doctor for. Oh, he's got Havana syndrome. Uh, so it's a way to cover it up. Once you get it into the medical system, then you can do all the things you need to do in order to mislead people, uh, deceive people, um, do things, maybe even mind control to the victims of the original assaults. So that's what's happened with the Havana syndrome. It now is a full-blown syndrome, and probably is listed in the psychiatric Bible as a syndrome, as if it sort of arrived from somewhere. It definitely had the markings of an infrared assault, and I mean an infrasound assault, and so it could be handled, you might say. And that's, of course, what the CIA always wants. They don't want the public to pay too much attention, but if it goes public, you want the fear there of that could happen to anyone, including me. But you also want to contain it and mislead people through the media, the very controlled media that we have in the land of the First Amendment. And so that's that's an example of MK Ultra continuing. There are many examples. The shooters that we've had lately, attempting to assassinate the president, or the former president, however you look at that, and or other things. So you just have to, once you know how they work and you know what their operations look like, it's very easy to detect. It's like they have some sort of formula. It's never very different. And the lone gunman, and et cetera. It's an old story. And I, of course, being a former 60s, I came of age in the 60s. I was born the same year as the National Security Agency, the National Security Act, the CIA, in 1947. So I've been around a long time, and I'm still healthy and hale. Of course, I don't do doctors or hospitals or clinics or any of that, because then I wouldn't be healthy and hale. So Early on, I, along with some of the vanguard of my 60s generation, we figured out what happened. We certainly figured out what happened with the Kennedy, the two Kennedy assassinations and the Martin Luther King assassination. And I never forgot those lessons. I did not see it as a phase that I went through. It was very much a story about what had happened to America, the land of the Bill of Rights, and I didn't know about the Operation Paperclip, the bringing Nazis in and scrubbing their records and putting them in all the places of power. I'm just finishing a book now about one of the Nazis whose name was Eric Traub, who was basically in charge of our biological warfare department since the 40s, before the war was over. And then after the war, he worked here off and on all the way into the 70s. And that really goes very far to leading MK Ultra and the paperclip Nazis working on that. Then you go over to, oh yeah, they're in biological warfare also, and they're experimenting on Americans with Lyme disease, Morgellons disease, various flus, which leads us to the present day CV-19, which is exactly its path of development as a biological warfare instrument. So, I haven't been able to have a life that, people tell me is a personal life. Oh yeah, a personal life. What's that? I don't know. I myself have an overactive conscience, and I have spent most of these years studying and figuring out how evil has made its way into the very core of a democratic republic. And for me, it's a mission, and it's a God-given mission, actually. It's something that I could never walk away from. And it's very hard for me to understand I can understand people who are not called to that, who did not somehow hear, okay, you're going to devote the rest of your life to outing evil. But what I can't understand is people who choose baubles and trinkets over the high calling of of exposing evil. If you have that high calling, why would you want some illustrious career, a big salary, a house in an expensive neighborhood? Why would you want that? That's all trinkets compared to the great calling to serve humanity's future and the generations of children attempting to get into this planet and being met with how many now is it? It's 74 vaccinations throughout their childhood. 74. When I was a child, I remember the polio being zapped for the polio vaccination, and that was it once. Fortunate for me, I moved around a lot as a child so that whoever had control over me or was the so-called parenting person, my grandparents or parents or whoever, they they didn't have my medical records. I was moving too much. So fortunate for me, I did not have that. But back then, it was maybe 6 or 7 at the very most throughout childhood. And now it's 74. Tell me that's not biological warfare. Tell me that's not a continuation of Operation Paperclip, uh, attempting to destroy this great experiment in the Bill of Rights in trying to, up until the advent of the media, and I mean television, the mind control instruments, television, the cell phone, these bits and pieces that are for entertainment, and news, of course, is entertainment because it's mostly lies. It's mostly made up, and so all the things that would have made this country great have been targeted by who? By the ones who supposedly lost World War II. I mean, what can I say? That I think we've got it all wrong. We inverted that, just like a lot of other things are inverted. And of course, inversion is one of the primary methods and approaches of Satanism, the religion Satanism, which is a real religion. It has its own gods. It has its own practices. One being pedophilia and child sacrifice and blood sacrifices. I mean, this is old stuff. This is not just chemicals and electromagnetics and nanotechnology and genetics. This goes into the old way of looking at, what they used to call the old religion, of looking at how you do power in this world. And so, to me, MK Ultra, we need to concentrate on MK Ultra so that we all know what it was and what it has become. I think that it is the key, because I don't know how it goes for you, Josh, but after the first 3 years of the many inoculations that went on, we heard stories not just of people dying, a lot of people having side effects, so-called, but we also heard about how, Uncle Joe and, your mother or father, they were just different. They weren't the same. They maybe, it was the onset of Alzheimer's. Maybe it was that they've gotten really nasty, really just like another personality, not the same person. Those are all signs of mind control, on some, possibly even beyond mind control to soul control. And of course, in America, we don't talk about the soul. I'm Romanian on my mother's side. I was raised in a Romanian Eastern European community till I was 9. And then I entered America, such as it is. Our neighborhood was in America, but we hardly had anything to do with the Americans outside the neighborhood. And then, suddenly I'm in America and whoa, this is really different. It took me years to get over it. I missed the neighborhood because it was so, well, there was a lot of music, there was a lot of dancing, there was a lot of culture, real culture, not just behaving properly or whatever, people call culture. So when you think of how things have gone in America, the land that my grandmother loved because she thought this was the place of freedom, and you watch it just drain away over all your life, which is exactly what I have experienced. You still fight. You still fight because those principles by which a human being becomes a great being who can manage their free will in a responsible and ethical and moral way. You don't want to let that go. We've had despots before. We've had tyranny. We've had terrible annihilations of millions of people. Those wars, millions died. Vietnam, we've had all that. But now there's something that is just eroding away the goodness in the American. And that is very concerning. So, that's what you brought up, MK Ultra, which I think is super important, because I think a lot of people now, with all the help of the electromagnetics, in the Internet of Things, and the nanotechnology that we're all breathing in from the chemical trails over us, and I write about that. I've written now the fourth book coming out. Uh, we all have this nanotechnology in us that is all used by 5G and 6G, in order to, well, they can put thoughts in our mind with V2K. There are all sorts of things that can happen now that we're swimming in 5G and 6G. And I don't own a cell phone. Why would I want to own a weapon system that they can use against me? I'm not going to own one. I'll never own one. I don't own a TV. Why would I want to own a mind control device? I mean, I was raised without television, and my powers of thinking and imagination show that. I have protected these great qualities of mine by not subjecting myself to these weapon technologies, what the military calls dual use. And by dual use, they mean that it can be used in civilian situations, or it can be used in war, military situations. So, that's how I look at it. Is my whole life has been about studying the warfare going on in the name of convenience and comfort, since MK Ultra. So that I probably should stop there and let you breathe and say a couple things.
Okay. That's quite a stream of consciousness. Like I'm scratching out questions as we go. You're covering it all.
Yeah.
But you're
Yeah.
doing great. It's all fascinating, very highly important stuff. Um, Aleister Crowley's, I'm not ever sure how to pronounce his last name, but the OTO, it's Ordo Templi Orientis. But
That's right.
of
That's
course,
right.
Satanism by any other name is still Satanism.
That's right.
And the dark occult definitely paved the way for the recipe to mind control. The white occultist that you've mentioned a couple times, I have a quote written down here of his. He once said, "In the future, we will eliminate the soul with medicine. Under the pretext of a healthy point of view, there will be a vaccine by which the human body will be treated as soon as possible directly at birth, so that the human being cannot develop the thought of the existence of soul and spirit." End quote. If
That's
Steiner
right.
if Steiner were alive today as witness to the fulfillment of such a prophecy, what do you think he would predict for the following decades of this century as it pertains to human soul and spirit versus transhumanism?
Well, we're in it now. I mean, that's exactly what I thought was that particular quote. I thought of that quote in 2020 when they began rolling out the inoculations, and everybody had to wear a mask and everybody had to be in lockdown, and et cetera. I recognized it the moment. And So if he were here now, and because of how consciousness is, once you die, you don't go somewhere else. You're still very omnipresent, unless, of course, you incarnate as somebody new. But I would say that Steiner is quite aware of what has happened, and it was just too late. I mean, I've been ranting and raving and being called a conspiracy nut and for, well, all my adult life since my 20s. So I think that people just waited too long, and now we're in for the count. And there have been reports, as long as we're on this topic, there have been reports of post-death repercussions that are going on for souls attempting to die, attempting to go through the natural death process of basically entering another consciousness once the body expires. And the subtle bodies, we have the physical body, but in this body is something that makes our body alive. You may think it's nutrients from food, but it really is from the what is called the etheric body. That's the body of life, the Elan Vital, Chi or Ki. There are many names for it, but we have that in us. And it is also a body that has to do with our character development and our ability to grasp the meaning of our memories. So, this etheric body seems to be in dire straits post-vax, post-CV-19, that particular strain. And does it mean the boosters as well? Well, I assume so. So is it possible? And I do ask myself this, but I don't have the answer. But is it possible that many people think that they are attempting to annihilate the population? Well, I don't necessarily think that, but I do think that if they are attempting to cull the population down to something more reasonable for control, the control system they have in mind through obviously 5G, 6G, 7G, 8G, all that, then what are they going to do about reincarnation? Because, I know a lot of people don't believe in reincarnation, but we're the only the Christian, so-called Christian nations of the West are the only places in the entire world that don't believe in reincarnation. And for me, it's not a matter of belief. I think I was 8 years old when I first experienced the fact that I had lived before, and I didn't know it was unusual. And I certainly didn't tell anybody. I was a very shy child. But if indeed you can't die a natural death, then how are you going to come back? So my question is this, that I haven't answered. Are they, these are occultists at the top of the food chain of the Pfizers and the AstraZenecas and et cetera, these massive corporations that have so much power. Are they changing the death process? Is that how far they're going to go in order to control the population here? Because certainly there are a lot of people who have karma, another aspect of most nations and religions, but not the Christian one, that people have karma and they want to come back to the earth and work on it to become better human beings, to become a real human being, not one just burdened by this and that and doing stupid things over and over and over and over again. So I ask myself that question. If I were a dark occultist working at Pfizer, I would want to do what Steiner said in that quote that you read. I would want to come up with a serum that when you took it, when it entered your body, that there were all sorts of forces released that could just gobble up your soul. Demons, you want to call them, or you call them entities, or you call whatever. How far are they taking this? Well, it looks to me like they're taking it pretty far. And I know they've been waiting for this moment for a long time, working on it, getting people stupider and stupider, making the education system I watched it myself. Fortunately, I Was not raised with television. That was one good thing. And then in school, we studied, the mythologies. I studied Latin, not in a Catholic school, in a regular school. And, there were things that where you could learn to think. You didn't have the TV or games, like video games, so you read books. And boy, I read a lot of books as a kid. So, so that that whole thing of raising a human being up to become a real human being, I say. I mean, the person with the head and the torso and the two legs and two arms is not necessarily a real human being, an authentic human being, because there's the inner human being that has to be developed as well, not just the outer. But in the West, all we know is the outer. We really don't know the inner at all. And so we throw a lot of garbage in there in the name of, gee, I feel like this and I really wanted to do that. And, that sort of thing. I don't know. I just was not put together that way as a child. It wasn't from my environment in the sense of, people plying me with high concepts or anything. No, not at all. I was a girl. Girls are pretty much worthless in America. And nobody pays attention to them particularly until they become sexual objects. So I was free. I could have my own world until I became a young woman. And so that in itself, that in a way, the environment plays a huge role in what you don't have around the child, what you don't think is, well, yeah, they should have their own cell phone. Oh, how ridiculous is that? Oh, there might be an emergency. Well, shoot, haven't there been emergencies over the several thousand years we did without these devices? Oh, yeah, and the way we got through those was through neighbors, through friends, through kind adults, etc. So anyway, it's not been thought out very well, and the way the technology is coming so hot and heavy, no one really knows quite how to handle that, other than to just add it to the desire list. So yeah, I just think about life differently from most people, and it isn't because um, it isn't so much because of the things that my life brought to me to develop me, as the fact that there was a quiet in my childhood that I could experience the quiet. There wasn't a lot of noise, a lot of electronic this, that, and the other. Um, the pace was slower. That sort of thing. In fact, I'm going to write my autobiography because, not because I want to be famous, but because I feel that kind of life will not be available to us anymore. That kind of life where you had an inner privacy. Because just think about it, the MK Ultra now, they can go right into your thoughts. All they need is to connect you with your evoked potential with their machinery. And they've
Speaking
done.
of that, I have a question that I wanted to ask you because I recently watched this video where a man in a white lab coat was explaining some new techniques that they have where they take the subject and they hook them up neurologically to a computer system. And they take the subject and they present them with this image and told him to imagine it. The
Mhm.
computer gives us readout of his thoughts, which were rather crudely illustrated, but frighteningly accurate. So my question is privacy of thought the last bastion of freedom? What becomes of our world once the mental barrier is totally breached by mind-reading technologies?
But it's gone. That's what I'm saying. Is you're thinking it's still in the future. It's not in the future. It's going on right now. They can take a read. The person that you need to listen to carefully is Sabrina Wallace. Sabrina Wallace. She was an MK Ultra, raised by parents who worked in black ops. for the CIA, NSA, whoever. And Sabrina is very bright. She's what you call a prodigy, but now she's 40 or 45. And she's giving us all a course on how this all works, because it's done. It's operant. And I know that's hard to believe, but here's the really scary part, I think, is you may never know unless you study this technology. You may never be able to tell that everything that you're deciding you want to do in life is being fed to you. They're bypassing your own desires. I mean, this will be, to my knowledge, this will be the first generation, these generations coming now, and they're already under it. I don't know what these generations are called, but the people in their 20s now, the people in their 30s, for sure. I don't know about the 40s, but the 30s, yes. I have a couple of friends who are in their 30s, and I can vouch for it. They are being run, and they think it's them, and they one of them has had a very hard time believing that this kind of technology already exists. But unless you study these things, and people are just already pretty taken by more movies, more cool downloads, more whatever. They're not studying. They don't know how to study anymore. I mean, I'm writing books in an era when people can't read anymore because they can read the page. And then once they turn the page, they won't remember anything they just read. What the heck? That's control. That's not a lack of concentration. No, that's control from outside your own will, your own mind. And, I think what a lot of people are going to do is they're just going to get used to it. I mean, it's too scary. It's too difficult to contemplate. They don't have the ability to concentrate and analyze. Like, I can analyze. Now, people say, well, how do you know what's going on in geoengineering? Because you're not up there doing the sniff test with what's coming out the backs of the jets. And you don't know exactly what you're breathing in from, I mean, I get it. No, I don't. But I know a lot about it because I've paid attention to a lot of detail. And as you know, the devil is in the detail. That's why people who can analyze and who have the capacity to discipline themselves to be able to pursue ideas that are all sort of all mixed up when you first come across them. You've got this, you've got this, you've got this, you've got this. But if you pay attention to them and just sort of move them around a bit like it was a domino game or a chessboard, eventually, because ideas, follow me here, this is very, very important. Because ideas are from another level of existence than the physical world, and you would just have to ask Einstein about that, or other brains who've had these aha moments. Because you're getting your thoughts, your cohesive thoughts from another dimension, you have to bring the details to the table. Yes, you have to have them and you have to pay attention to them, and you've made some choices. And then you go to sleep for your night's sleep. And then you wake up the next morning and you take another look at what you had on the table, and somehow it's arranged. into something that is very possible as to how it really is put together. So you don't like Sherlock Holmes, you don't need to be there when the murder is committed. You can be there hours after the murder is committed and the weapon's not there and even the body's not there. But as long as you have that eye for detail, you can pull together enough that that other dimension will kick in and give you the answers. You see how it works?
With biometrics, digital IDs, and digital currencies, Neuralink, body chips, nano receivers, and transmitters flowing through our veins, what is truly going on as far as the conjoining of the Internet of Bodies with the Internet of Things?
Well, what's going on? Because I'm involved, very involved with a couple of doctors and a microscopy group where they're doing a lot of microscope analysis of what's in human blood, what's in other liquids such as insulin, dental anesthetics, various things you get at the grocery store. They're analyzing these things with relatively expensive microscopes that can really do the lion's share of analysis or give you visuals of the tiny, what I call the tiny world, the microbe world, where you can see things very clearly. You see that certainly the CV19 is serums, doesn't matter which batch, all the batches are different, and you will see different things in some of them and different patterns in some of them, but they all have a lot of stuff that shouldn't be in there. They all have it. And what it appears to be, is a lot of well, I just call it hardware and software. It's turning that human being who had that serum into a cyborg, into what I call a transhuman. And that's already a done deal. I mean, we're in the 4th year of that. And those generations of the billions of people, remember, it's billions who had these jabs, those generations are walking around and they're being changed. They are undergoing a process, partially genetic from the mRNA, yes, and the spike proteins, yes, but also the part that nobody seems to want to talk about, and I definitely have seen that. There's like somebody slamming the door on this one, is the ability to run various things in the body, particularly the nanotechnology that is also seen in these microscope pictures of the blood, to run these things from a distance with the 5G and 6G. And now, if you think about it, these people have these systems that are now in their bodies. It's a cybernetic system, and so they're walking around, and around them is an electromagnetic field, because they are on a leash now that's satellite connected, hospital connected. They call it precision medicine. And their biometrics, as you were saying, are being read and followed, because this is all very experimental. They haven't made a transhuman race yet, but it's underway now. or at least various variations of a transhuman race is underway. So they're very interested in following these biometrics. But most people don't know that they now live inside a particular electromagnetic field. They know that, they probably, at least people who know about a little bit of science, know that, I'm sitting here in front of my computer. So I'm in an electromagnetic field right there because my computer is dosing me with its electromagnetics, and the light that I have on, same thing. So we know what an electromagnetic field is, and it's 90 degrees. Just remember that. There's the electric and then there's the magnetic. And they make a 90-degree field around us. So people who complain about shedding, that's your answer. You're picking up something from whoever you're around, or your partner, or whoever it is, from their field, and you may suffer from it, or you'll definitely feel some of the symptoms. And I have this happen very rarely because I live alone. I'm a writer. I spend a lot of time alone. But when I go among people, and it happened to me actually today, where I suddenly began to feel kind of nauseous. I'm in a store and I feel kind of nauseous. And I thought, wow, let's see now, what did I have for breakfast? And that's so rare. I never feel nauseous. And then I realized, oh yeah, I'm around all these people who've been inoculated, and I haven't. And yeah, I've had this happen several times where I feel nauseous because I'm in their electromagnetic field. And they add up. It's not just one field. It's like if there's 10 people around me and we're all standing in line, I have 10 fields that are suddenly all around me. So yeah, I'm going to feel it, and I'm probably going to be nauseous or get a headache or whatever. You see how it works. So that biometric thing is very difficult, because now you are plugged in a particular way. I'm plugged in too. I can't help but be plugged in because I'm around devices like my computer. But I have eliminated just about everything else. I don't have a cell phone. I would never own a cell phone because that's a weapon system. TV is a weapon system. I'm not going to own those things because that's going to make it too hard for me to balance those and stay human, stay alive, stay healthy, have a good immune system doing its job. So, yeah, we have to think all this through now because we're there. It's already going on, and it's going to get more. This is just the beginning. And that's why I'm doing what I do and why I don't work for money. I work for, trying to help people understand how this works, because I've figured out a lot of it, not all of it, because it's constantly changing. I haven't even talked to you about the synthetic biology going on, which is, that's going to be our biology. All of our biology is being shifted to digital. It's not going to be molecular anymore. So we got a lot to think about. And I even though it's maybe a little depressing and scary, it's very important. We all have important work to do. We really do. Nobody should be bored.
I'm seeing more and more articles praising the potential of biocomputers as well as using DNA and perfecting blockchain technology and human genomes and cells to influence AI advancement. So they're not only using technology to alter the human body, but also using the human body to alter technology. Now, I don't have an exact question for you on that. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on all that.
Well, that's a very facile thing to say. I highly doubt that they are using the human body for the sake of AI. That doesn't make any sense to me, because they want to usurp, the transhumanists want to usurp the place of nature, basically, and turn us into synthetics. I think in the movies now, and that's always pre-programming, I think they're called synths, right? synths, synths, synthetics. Looks human, still has that human looking body, but inside, eventually we're going to be, we're being shifted from being protein-based to being carbon-based. The carbon-based meaning synthetics, carbon nanotubes, quantum dots, graphene oxide, all these things that we're becoming slowly accustomed to a new language. These will replace our nature-based bodies and merge us with the AI. And we will live our lives on a different kind of internet. That's what they want. And that's what they're heading for. And because most of the ones at the top are practicing Satanists, they see nothing wrong with lying to us about any of it. Whatever works. Do as thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. That's what the Satanist practices. So lying is fine, cheating, stealing, killing, whatever works. You want to bring down this humanity, similar to the story of Lucifer and the fallen angel, and how, in the Quran, which I find really a fascinating story, the fallen angel is not named Lucifer, he's named Iblis. And Iblis, his problem is this: God says to him, okay, serve my creature man. And Iblis says, I'm not going to serve your creature man. I serve only you. But God says, but I have told you to serve my creature man. You must do that because that is my will. No, Iblis, Lucifer won't do it. So to be a god on this planet, I know it sounds silly to a lot of people who think they're so rational. How ridiculous. The American is one of the least rational people I've ever met in my life. You do what makes you human, and you don't do what doesn't make you human. That's the law I say to live. If it's not making you a better human and a stronger human and a more loving human and a more moral human, well, don't do it. Don't serve that. Serve the good, the true, and the beautiful. And you can't go wrong. I mean, those are all capitalized. Those are the really big ones. So, it's, in a way, things aren't very different in that we're all here and we're being tempted with this desire and that desire and this illusion and that illusion. It's the same. Every time you come here, you're gonna have this happen. You're gonna have to develop some discernment, and it's no different now. It's just complicated by the fact that whole new sciences are being heaved onto us with no explanation. It's like a black box, stick your hand in the black box. What are you going to find in there? You don't know. Could be vipers, could be spiders, could be spaghetti. I mean, you don't know. That's how they've left it. Is it's scary because you're used to things being like that, and now that's not happening. But they're making it seem like it's still there, but it's really not. That's how I see it. So, to me, if you're fighting an information war that's like this, where those with the power are keeping the information to themselves that you would need in order to defend yourself, well, you're just going to have to study more. Just going to have to cut out all those things that make you not think anymore. And where you're listening to some story, that some narrative that has been made up by high PhDs to fool you. Why would you even spend any time on that? To me, we're in a state of war, and it's not happening in the Middle East. It's right here, and I work hard because I want to save humanity, a remnant anyway. I want a remnant of humanity, the real human being, the God-made humanity, the ancient humanity, the one that has tremendous capacities, but needs to develop them, and is getting weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. So that's why I'm working. That's the only reason. Otherwise, I wanted to be a great novelist, and I had a really good start with Sub Rosa America, and I would like to write some other books too. But no, I have to do this because I'm the only one writing these books. Why am I the only one? Does that mean I'm way off base? Oh no, I'm not off base. But nobody else is on to this who knows as much about geoengineering as I do. It seems.
So, excuse me, moving my curiosity to the sky, what exactly are sun simulators and to what purpose are they serving the dark agenda?
Well, the sun simulator definitely exists. America has one. I don't know why. It has withdrawn all sign on the web. I've done a couple of pretty decent searches for what I used to see, maybe 5 or more years ago, and it's all gone. It's like they never heard of it, but they know China has one, and they know India has one, and I don't know who else. Originally, in the previous book, my third book, Geoengineered Transhumanism, I discuss it. The sun simulator, solar simulator, and there's a lunar simulator as well, where they're using that in that version of talking about it. I'm talking about how there appears to be a huge blob that transits the sun, the actual sun. I mean, it really must be very big, but according to a retired nuclear expert in Finland, and I talk about him in that book, it's all made of plutonium 293, I think. It's the worst plutonium. The one that if something happens to it, like if that big blob were to burst into fragments, it could destroy everything in our atmosphere or something like that. So what they do is when that blob is transiting the sun, or our sun, the real sun, they put up this fake sun. They got it all worked out. The geoengineers, that this is their job. They're the Band-Aid crew as well for all of these experiments that are going on now in our atmosphere and in the stratosphere. They cover it with the LED sun, which is what those are. It's just filled with LEDs and mirrors. And the only way you can tell the difference once it's over, so you basically have a solar event, right? You're covering the sun with this simulator that's closer to you, so it's bigger and it can cover the sun while that thing transits the sun. It sounds crazy. It sounds like some sort of cartoon show or something. But this nuclear expert has definitely convinced me that that's one of the uses. Now, another one you saw this summer. You thought you saw an eclipse, right? No, you didn't see an eclipse. They used the solar simulator. I watched it. I know. LEDs, they give off a white light. And then the edges, all these panels that are on there are all hexagonal. The whole thing is just masses of hexagonal connectivity with LEDs. So when you look at the edge of this very white sun, and our sun is still kind of golden, despite the chemical trails and everything else that's in the sky, you see that there are like edges around the outside, the perimeter of the sun. So that's kind of what it is for. It's for emergencies. It's for fake eclipses. And I don't know what else, but I know it exists. And I know that the United States has one, but you would not know that from the internet. It's been removed. It's gone black, as they say, right? You know what going black means, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So is it possible that we'll one day be paying a bill to turn the sun back on?
Well, our sun is plasma, our real sun, and they are doing things to it. And I talk about why they are. There's a guy that they follow, his philosophy, Kardashev. I've talked about him many times on radio shows. Nikolai Kardashev was a Soviet astronomer, and he said that for a civilization to be a real civilization, that it needs to answer to three things in a space age, which we're in. We're in a space age right now. You haven't been told properly, but believe me, we are. He said there were three things. First, you have to have full spectrum dominance over your own planet. Okay, that means, the electromagnetic spectrum goes all the way from microwaves and radio waves to gamma rays at the other end of the spectrum. It's a big, long spectrum. But we can only see a teeny weeny bit in the middle. Do you remember? Our vision can only see a very tiny, I think it's 0.012 or something like that. I mean, it makes you wonder why we can see so little. So we can be taken advantage of by the people who control the machines that now are filling out the rest of the spectrums, right? They like infrared, and they're just, we can't see into any of those without the machines, and that's why those in power are the ones that are richest and control the machines. So then Kardashev says, okay, so now you control the full spectrum, your electromagnetic spectrum of your planet. Now you need to control the electromagnetic spectrum of your sun, your star. And that's what they're doing now. They're doing a lot of experiments to control the sun. So every time I see NASA trot out some story about some amazing astronomical event that happened, I don't trust NASA at all. First of all, it's an occult society, was created by the Nazis. It has a brotherhood called the Saturnalian Brotherhood. It can't be trusted. So it's more there for cover stories. Recently they had one, and I figured out what they were doing. They were again tampering with the magnetosphere, which is has to do with shielding us. And they made it sound like it was some ooh-ah thing that came out of nowhere. It was just geoengineered. Almost every event is geoengineered now that they tell you is cosmic. So then the third thing that Kardashev says, there's one more thing. Besides, now you control your planet, electromagnetic spectrum. Now you control your sun, electromagnetic spectrum. And now you need to control the galaxy and all its systems, including your solar system. Once you do those three things, then you have a great civilization that has a proper space age. And believe it or not, the geoengineers and the astrophysicists and the plasma physicists of today are pursuing this with great gusto. Sounds weird, doesn't
it? Well, there's not much that doesn't sound weird these days. Weird is the new norm.
Yeah.
CERN, HARP, LHC, Starlink, the International Space Station, are these separate, independent entities working unlinked to one another by any web, or do all fit together in the grand scheme of the evil agenda? If the latter, how are they working in unison?
Well, they're working in unison for sure, because when you look up at the sky and you don't have the concepts I have for what's going on up there, because it looks to you like a light powder blue. You're never going to see a deep blue sky here in these states, never. But I hear there are some in parts of the world, though. I often kind of yearn for that. But when I look up, I have my head full of concepts, and I always remember this amazing photograph sent to me by a woman. I do not have her name. It was all very fly-by-night kind of thing. She just took it with her cell phone and she said, "What do you think this means?" And what it was the sky above her. It was a relatively clear day, and it looked just like a circuit board. I mean, it looked like a circuit board. And then I realized, oh, of course, it's all wireless now. It is a circuit board. And the various instruments of power, CERN, HARP, etc., of course, they're all connected, but not by. For some reason, I was able to see it, which normally we can't. We can't see that circuit board normally. But somehow the frequency of the sky, and I don't know what they did to do that or what anybody did. It obviously wasn't her phone that did it. They did something to the frequency so that I could get just a little picture of what it really looks like. That's how I interpreted it, is that it is a circuit board. And I do know from the second book I wrote, there's 4 books I've written on geoengineering. The second book, Under an Ionized Sky, From Chemtrails to Space Fence Lockdown, talks about space fence lockdown in great detail. And what that means is that this entire atmosphere now is pretty much controlled. We know it's wireless, but what we don't remember is that there are all these waves up there. I mean, trillions of them. And that they all have substance. Remember, you hear scientists say, should we think of it as a wave or should we think of it as particles? Well, it's both. It's particles and waves, which means it's partially material. It's not invisible. It's not entirely invisible. So, okay, so it's just loaded up there. And that's what we're breathing from. It's like we're in an electromagnetic room, and we've grown accustomed to being in the electromagnetic room, but all the same, it's not good for us. Plus, now we have all those satellites up there, right? And they're all microwaving us, some days worse than others. So that's how they all work together. They're calibrated to work separately and to work together when called upon. And where we saw this latest event that was magnetic in nature, that was CERN. I know that because CERN is sort of in charge of the magnetosphere. Now, CERN can't do to the magnetosphere what it needs to without the help of the ionospheric heaters and the ionosphere itself. So you have to teach yourself those things of what would be working together during these events that we're supposed to believe are just, oh my gosh, what a mystery. No, they're not a mystery. They're all experimentation. It's how I look at it. I mean, it could be acts of war or whatever, but most of them seem to be experimental as they're flexing their muscle and learning how to control electromagnetic events with all their various instruments.
There was a time when if one dare mention smart dust, others would mock that person as a lunatic. However, over the past decade or so, smart dust has been sprinkled over every mainstream scientific journal and website. Can you please explain exactly what is smart dust, how it's being used, and what are the goals of the agenda behind it?
Yeah, very simply put, smart dust, every time you see the word smart, you know you're dealing with a man-made thing. Just accept that. Like smart cities. It's going to be completely controlled by man. It's not at all like the old cities. So smart dust is basically a nanotechnology, some very tiny piece of nanotechnology. Now, some of them are nanorobots in their own right, nanobots, and they are separate. But the one thing you have to know about the nano world, the nanotech, is that they never operate alone. They operate in swarms, like hive minds. They're given their instructions, their programming, and then they go off and they do it, but all as one. So though you cannot see a nano, it's 1/1000th of a meter. There's no way you could see it. Because they are of a swarm nature, you can see them swarming here and there. Now, one place that I assure you is nanobots, and that would be smart dust that has been programmed for remote control. Okay, so it can be remotely run because it's smart. It's part of a computer thing. And that's what it has. It has a receiver, it has a transmitter. It's a two-way thing. Is in the California fires. You can see them operating as a swarm during the fires. And I have some very good drone footage of it, in which you see these you see these swarms of things going, and it looks like, oh, that's the wind is blowing embers. They're all ignited and it's embers. But there was no wind. There was no wind at that time. So what you're seeing is a swarm of smart dust, nanotech, going down the road and going into into a neighborhood and some of them crawling up the wall and igniting the house while the others move on and bypass the next house because it's not in the program and go to the next house and crawl up the wall and ignite that one. So you see them all working together. That's nanodust. That's smart dust. I mean, I have this little clip of Elon Musk. No, not Elon Musk. Julian Assange talking about smart dust, in which he says, and then the smart dust, no, the evil dust, and then he goes on. So I tend to think of it as, yeah, it'll do its master's will. That's what the smart means, is it's been computerized to obey instructions.
So my next question, I'm pretty certain I know what your answer will be to this, but I think it's a question that needs asked. Many people are using ChatGPT to learn information that is typically censored or manipulated by Google and the technocrats. Is this toying and meddling with the demon a way to feed the beast more human algorithms and intelligence, or are there efficient ways of using AI against itself?
Well, I think you're right. I hadn't really thought very much about that, but I think you're right, that first part. As far as how to defeat AI, which now is running so much, and we're all plugged into it to some degree or another, no question about it, because there are many, many AIs. I maintain that the first thing to do is to examine your electromagnetic footprint. And that would be where you live. So you'd want to look at, you don't know necessarily what your neighbors are up to, but you can pretty much imagine that most neighbors have 5G routers. They're doing 5G. I would assume that right now. And then you look for the towers that are near your house. How close are they? And is it in line with another tower? You figure out the numbers on that. To what degree is it going straight through your apartment or your home or whatever? You get rid of your TV because it has microphones and cameras in it that are recording everything you do in your home. That's what they're like now. Just get rid of it. Get rid of your cell phone. I know it's very convenient and very fancy, but you want to dial back on that. Now, I'm a writer, so I own a computer. If I weren't a writer, I would start thinking about maybe owning something where I could definitely plug into the grid for various purposes, but that wouldn't be very sophisticated. It'd be less sophisticated. The more sophistication, the more power it has to destroy your electromagnetic power. I'd think about, if your fridge is smart and your washing machine is smart, I'd go out and I'd sell those and go out and get secondhand. Not to get a new car, always get as old a car as you possibly can that, you won't have a lot of trouble with, because otherwise you're going to get cars that have hundreds of computers in them. And you're going to be radiated the whole time you're in that tinderbox. So learn to think as if electromagnetics is a necessary evil, but an evil you want to keep very minimal. Very, very, very minimal. And definitely start reading more. because now you won't have your entertainment. You see where I'm going with this. That's key, is to wean yourself from the greatest evil that's going on today. It is the greatest, because it's so subtle and it's invisible. You can't see it. And it's being used by the transhuman technology. Then the next thing, of course, you're going to look at is your dependence on the great white doctor, I call him. I haven't been to a doctor since I was 13, when I figured out that they were after money. That's what I figured out that day. I was young, but I knew. And I decided I'm not going to doctors ever again. And so far, so good. Plus, I studied Chinese medicine for several years and learned how to take care of myself to keep balance in the body, with food, with good food. And I do the best I can there, given that just about everything is tainted now, because all this stuff is coming down from the sky onto organic gardens, the same as inorganic gardens. So you see how we go. We're bringing our senses alive again, and our thinking, by not allowing the electromagnetic devices to, quote, help us with anything, because they're not going to help us. So I'm not a Luddite. I definitely want to learn how to deal with an electromagnetic world, but not at the complete expense of what is natural. I can't do that. I'm a natural. I have a natural body. I have a natural. Part of me is very natural, and I want to keep that. So that would be my answer.
So I think we have a lot of valuable information in this episode for the listeners to digest. So I think this is a good place to wrap it up. Do you have any plugs, products, promotions? How can my listeners find you?
Yeah, for my books, yes, they're on Amazon, but I highly recommend for the third book, that which is Geoengineered Transhumanism. It's very fat. It's expensive. It has 60 color photos. The one on Amazon is black and white, and I highly recommend that people own the one with color photographs. This next book, this fourth book, put out by Inner Traditions, will not have color photos either. So some of the photos in the Geoengineered Transhuman book that you can get at Rudolf Steiner bookstore in Seattle. That's the only place that handles all my books. Rudolf Steiner bookstore in Seattle, Washington. Yeah, the photos in this book some of them are doubles in the next book, but at least you will get to see some of these things in color, which I think is important, especially the more we deal with the blood. The more sad I'm going to be that I'm not going to be able to print the photos in color. I'm now writing the synthetic biology book that kind of goes with this fourth book that's coming out, the Geoengineered Transhuman. So I'm writing that one. It'll be out in maybe a year, I would guess, from Inner Traditions. I've contracted with them. And that too will be on Amazon. I think that's all. I do post every day on my Patreon page, and you don't need to pay for it. I have a free thing going on there, but some people are very kindly donating $10 a month to me. I comment on articles that are salient to our time. I handpick them. I spend quite a bit of time on this because I feel very strongly I'm educating the public in the way that I see the truth lies. And then I also have one site left on Facebook where you need permission from me to be a member. It's called EMF Planetary Engineering. I never go to the Elana Freeland Facebook site because I lost control of that years ago. So EMF Planetary Engineering Facebook or the Patreon site. And that's about it. No, and then I have one more site, elanafreeland.com, which was made by a very talented designer. The whole site was. But I don't use that site anymore. It stands as sort of a museum piece. But you can get quite a bit of information about my past and what has made me the writer I am.
Well, I encourage everybody to run out and grab up those books and read every page at least 3 times because every page is an encyclopedia of information that we need to know about.
Yeah.
And I thank you very kindly for coming back on. This has been very elucidating, and my brain is swollen right now and kind of throbbing with information. I thank you for that.
Yes, and please send it to me when you've got it ready, okay?
Absolutely. You take care. Enjoy the rest
All
of your
right.
day.
All right. Bye-bye.